Good day to everyone. Welcome to the course CS308 Software Engineering and Project Management. Module 6 User Interface Design. I'm K S Mathew, Department of Computer Science, Rajagiri School of Engineering and Technology. So user interface design is part of requirement analysis and design. So user interface refers to the methods and tool devices that are used to interact between the machines and the user. So the software runs in a machine, and the user, when they have to use the software, they have to interface or interact with the machine to use the software. So what are the different methods and mechanisms by which users can interact with the machine is what is dealt with in user interface design. There are two fundamental goals for user interface design. One is to communicate information from the machine to the user. If the machine wants to communicate some information to the user, it uses the user interface to communicate that information to the user. Similarly, user wants to input or inform some data to the machine for communicating users with the machine. So if user wants to input some data to the machine, they use user interface, communicating information from the user to the machine. So these are the two basic purposes. One for the users to communicate some information to the machine, and the second is the machine to communicate some information back to the user. So if we look at the evolution of user interfaces over time, you can see before 1900s, if you see the machine and the interfaces with the machine and the user, it was all using switches, manual switches, mechanical switches and flashing lights. So you could see big computers with a lot of flashing lights and mechanical toggle switches to give input by the user to the machine, as well as the lights to indicate the status of various processes by the computer, by the machine to the users. So before 1900, the user interface was mainly consisting of a lot of flashing lights, LEDs, and flashing lights and mechanical switches. And if you look at before 1980s, from 1900 to 1980s, you could see a lot of printing devices, punch cards were used in the machine. Punch cards were used to give input from the user to the machine, and printers or printed output were used by the machine to communicate information back to the user. Before 1990s, you will see character-based displays like VDUs, visual display units, and typewriter-like keyboards were used to provide input by the user to the computer, as well as character-based screens, black and white character-based screens were used before 90s. From 90 onwards, you could see graphical user interfaces with the introduction of Windows, Microsoft Windows, and modern laptop and desktop machines of personal computer. With the introduction of personal computer and Microsoft Windows, we started getting interfaces using graphical user interfaces. Now the latest trend is UI UX design, which makes the user experience, the user usability very much. The software usability is increased very much by the introduction of UI UX design or user experience design. That's the present slide. There are basically 14 rules in user interface design. So in this module, we are going to discuss various 14 user interface design rules which are used while designing user interfaces. You could use different tools available for designing user interfaces, but when you use these design tools, you need to consider these principles while designing user interfaces. We will discuss the principles one by one. Principle of user profiling. First of all, before you start designing your user interfaces, you should know who is your user. So know your user first. Whether your user is computer savvy user or is a layman or a businessman or a professional, or is he an artist or a common man. So you need to have an awareness or understanding about your user. user of your product, and you need to design the user interfaces which will be appropriate for the type of user you have for your product. And the second rule principle is principle of metaphor. Borrow the behavior from systems familiar to your user. Your users may be a layman who may be familiar with the normal mechanical devices, mechanical appliances, for example. And it is always better to adapt the behavior of the mechanical devices when you design the user interfaces for your software, so that the users are familiar with that, using that mechanical devices. So if your software interfaces are also similar to that, it will be easy for the user to use. That is what is called principle of metaphor. For example, whenever you see a knob, there is a tendency for the user to rotate the knob. So if you want to do a similar functionality in your software, you can represent that functionality by a knob, so that you will have a tendency to rotate that knob. Similarly, command buttons. Whenever a user see a button, there will be a tendency for the button to press that button. So provide that feature, same feature, simulate that feature in your software, so that whenever users see a button, he will try to press that button. Radio buttons, you might have used radios. So in radios you have the push buttons, right? When you push one button, the other button may come up. So same mechanism can be implemented using the radio buttons in the software screens. Slide bars. So users may be familiar with sliding a window, for example, to see more area. So the same approach can be used to see the different areas of the screen by having horizontal and vertical scope bars, for example. Principle of feature exposure. Let the user see clearly what functions are available. When the user looks at your software, you should be able to easily identify all the features available in the software. No feature should be hidden and difficult to see in the application. So you should be able to easily identify and locate various features in your software. That is what is called principle of feature exposure. All the features should be exposed to the user clearly, and nothing should be hidden or difficult to locate. Principle of coherence. Behavior of the program should be coherent, logical, consistent, and easily understood. When you design your screens, there could be hundreds of screens. So all the screens should behave in the similar way, or logically consistent and similar way, so that once a user is familiar with one screen, it will be easy for him to use other screens as well. The behavior of the screens should be consistent across the application. It should not be like one screen behaves in some way and other screen behaves in different ways. Using same controls, if it differs, the behavior differs, it will make the user very confusing. The fifth principle of state visualization. Changes in the behavior of the program should be reflected in the appearance of the user interfaces. For example, when the user see a cursor going to a hourglass, so you will get a feeling that the system is doing some processing. So you will wait for the hourglass to come back to normal. Similarly, when a button is grayed, so that's an indication to the user that the button is not, that functionality is not available at this point of time. That is state visualization. So button color changing to gray indicate the disabling of that feature. Principle of shortcuts. Provide both concrete and abstract ways of getting a task done. You may provide different ways of executing a particular task by using menu options, or using command buttons, or using function keys and shortcut keys. So some of the options could be very clear, some of the options could be not that clear or abstract, which advanced users can use. So in the interface design, you may provide multiple options to invoke a particular task using menu items, or a command button, or function keys, or shortcut keys. Some of the options like menu options and command button will be very visible, concrete, which every user will be able to use without much difficulty. whereas more advanced users can also use function keys and shortcut keys, which will be very easy, very fast compared to menu options and command patterns. So that is what is called principle of shortcuts. Principle of focus: some aspects of the user interface attract attention more than others do. So if you want to give focus on some of the areas of your user interface, that has to be made. For example, when an error occurs, the software has to give focus for that error, so which can be indicated using flashing text or animations or pop-up screens, cursor change into hourglass, etc. So that is principle of focus. Some aspects of the user interface attract attention to the user, attention of the user. When an error occurs, definitely that error should should give focus, so that user will take action to avoid that error, like pop-up and flashing text on the screen, red color text on the screen, animations, cursor change in the hourglass, etc. can be used to give focus for certain areas of your application. Or in the menu item, you can highlight a particular menu item where he is currently in. Other items can be grayed, for example, or shown in different color. Principle of safety: let the user develop confidence by providing a safety net. For example, in case of online fund transfer or net banking, so always user will have some apprehension to use those features with a fear of losing his money or losing his credentials by our hackers. So you should provide sufficient safety mechanisms for the applications, so the user will be confident enough to use that feature without worry. So you should have enough mechanisms to protect the user from danger, so that he will be more confident in using that feature in your application. Principle of context: limit the user activity to one well-defined context unless there is a good reason not to do. So your functionalities should be based on the context of the user. So there should not be any functionality which is against the context. No functionality should be enabled which is against the current context of the user. So for example, in a drawing application, suppose when a user select a text area, so only the move resize functionality will be enabled. Whereas if he is selecting a particular character within the text area, the move and resize functionality will not be enabled. If you allow him to move the character, the text itself will get wrong, will be scrambled. So depending on the context in which the user is, enable or disable the appropriate functionality which is relevant to the context. So you might have seen contextual menus. So when you select an image, only the features which are related to the image will get enabled. All the features which are related to a text will get disabled automatically in the context sensitive menu mechanisms. Principle of aesthetics: create a program of beauty. So your screen should also be very cute, beautiful and properly arranged, so that users will feel happy in using your application. So aesthetics of the screen is also very important for your product to get sold in the market. So these are the 14 principles of user interface design, which has to be kept in mind while designing your user interfaces. Two more principles. Principle of user testing. Testing of the user interfaces should be done by a person other than the person who has designed this user interface. So user interface design, with respect to user interfaces, the perception of people is different with respect to user interfaces. So it is always better to have the testing of user interface done by other people who are not involved in the design process or who are not part of the team. It is always appropriate to get the user interfaces tested by the actual end user, so that you get the proper feedback from the user, the difficulty of the user using the interfaces. You will get to know when the actual users use your software interfaces. graphical user interfaces. Principle of humility: always be open and listen to what ordinary laymen say about your user interfaces. It is not right to think that whatever you designed is perfect and effective for the normal user. So always be open and listen to people for suggestions and improving your interfaces. No user interface is perfect 100% for all the type of users. So the individual perception of user interfaces is different. So you need to be open and listen to ordinary people, which will help you to improve your design skills or user interface design skills and improve your product. So references used for preparing this presentation is Engg, Software Engineering, Software Reliability, Testing and Quality Assurance, Kanna Book Publishing Company. Thank you. That completes the course CS308, Software Engineering and Project Management Module 6. Wish you all the best for your exams.